Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chris, aka Big Will, and here for episode 8, we're just going to look at what has happened in the previous season in the top leagues. We're going to have a bit of a transfer roundup of what's happened so far, and we're also going to have the first league game in the first division with Manchester City this season. And we're going to start off with the Premier League. So as you can see, it was quite a close run thing toward the end of the season between Arsenal and Manchester United. Arsenal in the end finished victorious, and when you look at their squad, they've got the likes of David Seaman starting in goal. Martin Keown is a regular at centre back there. They've also got Patrick Vieira, who's only 23 years old, I might add. They've brought in Gennaro Gattuso. They've got Petit in there. Ray Parlour looks set to be leaving by the looks of things. On a potential loan deal. He is actually transfer listed for 12.5 million there. They've got a 22-year-old Freddie Ljungberg, amongst other names as well. But I did just have a look briefly, and on the way down there's Nwankwo Kanu there, playing up, he has been playing up front for them, but by the looks of it, they have signed Ronaldinho, the Brazilian wonder that was Ronaldinho. They've managed to sign him from Grêmio in Brazil. They signed him for just £2.5 million, and we all know what kind of a player Ronaldinho became. What a signing that is for Arsenal. And they're rocking Dennis Bergkamp and Nicolas Anelka up front. Anelka actually wants to leave, looking at that, in a £57 million fee is what Arsenal are willing to let him go for. And the close runners-up were Manchester United, and as you have a look at their squad, they actually bought Rio Ferdinand from West Ham this season, so they got Peter Schmeichel in goal still. Walter Samuel's a signing that they made. They've got Jaap Stam, Gary Neville's in there with Phil Neville at the back as well. They've got Nicky Butt, Roy Keane, all of the big guys that were at United for years and years. Scholes, Beckham, Giggs, Andy Cole and Dwight York there. They actually recently signed Andrei Shevchenko from Dynamo Kiev, so he hadn't even made it to AC Milan by this point. They signed him for just under £10 million, and he ended up, I think he's now actually worth, 69 million to 100 million. Absolutely ridiculous valuation for him, and obviously it looks like some of these guys that we watched growing up have made very early moves in these seasons. Where Liverpool are concerned as well, they're rocking Michael Owen and Robbie Fowler up front. I mean, what a strike force that is. They've got a 19-year-old Steven Gerrard in midfield, and Jamie Carragher is in there. He's only 21 as well. I was looking at Chelsea as well, and I was wondering about players there, but the likes of John Terry, he's in the under-21s, he's only 18, and Frank Lampard is actually still at West Ham at this point. So we'll have a quick look at Serie A in Italy, just to see what happened there, and having a look at this. So Juventus, AC Milan and Inter Milan came in second, third and fourth, all behind Parma. Parma actually won the league on goal difference, and when you look at their squad, there are some very big names that you may recognise in there, with Hernan Crespo spearheading the front line for them. Enrico Chiesa is there on that right hand side. Juan Sebastian Veron, who of course played for Manchester United and Chelsea, he is in there. And as we move a little bit further up the list, you've got the likes of Lilian Thuram. I mean, look at that valuation on Lilian Thuram, £300 million as an average. In today's money, that is probably what they'd be worth, I would have thought, I'm guessing. You got Fabio Cannavaro there, who was mostly known for his time at Juventus, but he did start off at Parma at this point. And Gianluigi Buffon, he's only 21 in game at this moment in time, and as you are well aware, he is still playing, and he's at Parma once again. They actually bought Roy Carroll not long ago as well, who we know from the likes of Manchester United and Wigan Athletic. So if we go to La Liga in Spain, we'll have a look to see what's happened in that one. And for whatever reason, I can't seem to find their league. Just bear with me a second. If we go into Spain, Real Madrid. It's called the Primera Division at that point, of course. And as we look into that one, Barcelona won the league, followed by Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. When you look at Barcelona's team, there's not necessarily many players you'll recognise. Sol Campbell has actually signed for them from Tottenham. Um, what a very interesting signing that is. There's a 21-year-old Carles Puyol there. And unfortunately, because of my transfer restrictions, I can't sign some of these. Quite well, nearly all of these players I wouldn't be able to sign. But Carlos Puyol did actually express an interest in wanting to sign, but of course he didn't play for City, and he doesn't fill the quota for British and Irish players either. So that was a bit of a blow where he was concerned. And in terms of players further forward, they've got the likes of a 23-year-old Patrick Kluivert, and they've got Rivaldo and Luis Figo in there as well. Really, really strong side that they have. And I'll just show you Real Madrid as well, because there's some big, big names that we'll recognise in this squad as well. So Iker Casillas is in the under 18s, I believe. Roberto Carlos, I mean, he was the best left back in the world at this time, in my opinion. He is the main man there at left back. Other defensive options that they have weren't exactly big names, but when you move further forward, the likes of Clarence Seedorf, Raul, Fernando Morientes in there, Mattia Kejman has signed for them as well. Some really big names in there, especially with Raul. I mean, what a player he was as well. He spent nearly all of his career at Real Madrid. He was absolutely phenomenal player for them. In terms of Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, he's actually at Inter Milan at this point. So again, he didn't actually come through onto Real Madrid's rostrum at this time. So I'll move over to the Bundesliga and see what happened in that one. And we suspect, yep, Bayern Munich won the title once again, as they continue to do these days as well. They've got some really, really good players in there. I mean, Carsten Janker was a really solid German striker. He did get quite a number of international appearances in the end. Mehmet Scholl is in there again with Alexander Zickler, Givane Elba. Thomas Graveson's in there as well. Bit of a surprise to see him there at that point. And I did actually have a look previously, and Philip Lahm has just come into, as a regen of course, because it matches the time that he comes through the youth academy. He has just come through from their youth academy as a 15-year-old, and look at those statistics that he has for his attributes. He is going to be some player in game as he matches up with real life. We'll have a last look with France. The French league, I'm not entirely sure what it was called at that point. It was still Ligue 1. So we'll have a look at Ligue 1. And as we go back to previous, Marseille actually won the title there. PSG finished in third place. Of course, PSG are the dominant force now. They don't necessarily have many names that we may recognise, whereas now they have got a team of wonderful players, really. They really have a squad worth reckoning with. We'll just have a quick look at Marseille, seeing as though they were the team that won Ligue 1. Emile Mpenza is in there. He actually signed from Standard Liège in Belgium. Emile Mpenza, of course, is a player that I'm quite interested in. He did play for Manchester City at one point, so he could be a player that comes in with him being Belgian. Laurent Robert's in there. Robert Pires in there as well, former Arsenal player, of course. He's in there, which is great to see. Mario Melchior did the rounds a little bit in the Premier League. He played for the likes of Wigan, Birmingham City and Chelsea. William Gallas, of course, who played for Tottenham, Arsenal and Chelsea as well. He is in there, a 21-year-old who can play across the defence. And Laurent Blanc, of course, one of the famous names. Also, certainly a strong-looking squad there for Marseille. And we will now move on to the transfers. It's been it's been hard with the transfer window. We've tried all kinds of different signings, and it starts off with the signing of Peter Crouch for us from Tottenham Hotspur. We signed him for £700,000 from Tottenham. He's only 18 years of age. He's only got 2-star current ability, but he has got 5-star potential nearly. And I think, I mean, he's a personal favourite of mine. I thought he was such an unusual player, and I just felt like I needed to sign him. Really, really solid, and I'm looking forward to having him in the squad. We then wanted to strengthen at right back. We didn't make any sales after the January transfer window for the previous season. Danny Mills was also confirmed in June. He is a very solid right back. He's not very quick, but he's got very solid defensive ability. We signed him for £1.4 million, and as you can see by his value, I think we've done really well to pick him up. So we move on to the actual main transfer window. We have spent a little bit of money, but at the same time we have managed to sell one or two players as well. So Russell Holt, he came in on a free transfer last season. We weren't really using him. We've let him go. He was our reserve goalkeeper for 20,000. Chris Mackin has left for Charlton for 60,000. Nick Fenton, who came from our under 21 side, he has gone to Barnet for 60,000 as well. Gerard Vikings expressed a desire to leave, so he went for a potential fee of £300,000. And Gareth Farrelly, we brought him in on the cheap last season as well. We've decided to sell him on a profit. It's a minor profit, but it's profit nonetheless. And in terms of player signings, we decided to bring in Paul Robinson. He is going to be our backup goalkeeper for £500,000. He obviously became quite a good England international, and I feel like we can develop him into that goalkeeper once again. Of course, with him being English, he is able to sign under this ruling that I've put under myself. We then brought in a former fan favourite of mine, Ilano. He has 11 under 20 caps for Brazil already. He's only 18, and I think he's going to be very technically good for us. He can play in a variety of positions, and we signed him for £1.6 million. And again, if anything happens with him in terms of having to sell him, we'll make a good profit. We then looked into central midfield options, so we brought in Scott Parker. As you can see, he's got 3.5 star of current ability, 5-star potential. We brought him in for £1.5 million from Charlton Athletic, and I think in terms of midfield options, he is going to be extremely solid. Paul Robinson, another Paul Robinson. He is a left back. We've brought him in from Watford. Really determined character, and he works hard. Really solid team worker as well. Again, he's not the quickest of wing backs, but defensive attributes, he's looking really strong, and I think he will prove very useful. He could be worth around £3 million. We signed him for £1.1 million. We then brought in a centre back in Darren Pearce. Again, we signed him for £1.1 million, so again we could double our money on him. Defensively, he looks quite solid, and he's quite quick for a centre half as well, so I think he's going to be a solid option in that position. This was a bit of a lucky find. Now, Norwich were actually interested in Danny Murphy, and they were interested in actually bringing him in on loan, so I had a quick look at him, and we managed to bring him in for just £30,000. I think basically what the idea was, he was going to get released at the end of the season by Liverpool. But I decided to act quickly in the hope that we could pip Norwich to the post, and we did. And in a £30,000 signing, for him to have that value of nearly £4.5 million, I think we've made an absolute steal there, and he will be a vital player in our central midfield. We then looked at a few players, but I was really struggling to find someone that can play in that defensive midfield role, and I decided to punt for Damien Francis. Now, he has been a bit of a yo-yo player in his career in real life. He played for a number of sides that got promoted, such as Watford and Norwich as well back in the day, and he was a bit of a yo-yo player. He always came up and signed, and then the teams that he played for tended to get relegated, unfortunately. But he's 20 years of age, he can play in that holding midfield role. He's got 3-star of current ability with 4-star potential. It's not great, but for the time being, he will certainly do a job in that role. We did look at some other players, and despite the fact that we've got all the money, I didn't want to go spending the earth in the first division, because the likes of Michael Carrick were available. He wanted to sign potentially. He would have cost me about £6 or £7 million. And again, I did have the money, but at the time, at this moment in time, I don't think it's right to be spending the earth. So with that, the squad is looking quite good. We've got 3 goalkeepers in there with plenty of defensive options, especially at right back after signing Rory Delap last season as well. We've got a really solid looking team, I think. Jamie Pollock and Michael Brown are being linked with moves away still. It is a little bit of a concern, but with the fact that we've got Scott Parker, Danny Murphy, Jason Kumas, even Ilano might be able to drop in there with a bit of training, and Damien Francis as well. If either or both of them go, we do have adequate cover, but we might be able to bring one in if possible. We're going to stick with Neil Heaney and Craig Russell this season for that left-hand side, Sean Wright-Phillips for the right-hand side, and obviously with John Mack and Sean Goulter, we brought in Peter Crouch, so we have plenty of options in there. So I'm only going to do one football match in this episode today, but it is a big game. With it being our first league game of the season, we are away against rivals Bolton Wanderers, and I think we're going to stick with our usual mentality and the way that we normally play. They've got some very good players here, Bolton Wanderers, but I'm hopeful that we can really surprise a few people and get a good result. So the starting lineup for this game, we're going to have Nicky Weaver in goal. Paul Robinson's going to get his debut at left back with Morrison and Pearce in the centre and Rory Delap at right back. We're going to have Michael Brown, Scott Parker and Danny Murphy in the midfield three, with Sean Wright-Phillips, Craig Russell out wide and Sean Goulter up front. It's a bit of a risk having both the central midfielders as debutants, but we have got options on the bench as well, with Paul Robinson as our sub-goalkeeper. We've got Jody Craddock, Jamie Pollock, John Macken, Danny Mills, Jason Kumas and Ilano on the bench. Clint Hill is just about recovered now. He's struggling for fitness a little bit still, as are one or two of the other players, but we've got the options there, so let's get into it. I'm really looking forward to getting the season underway. It'll be nice to see whereabouts we are in relation to player quality in this league. And if we can get a good start, hopefully we can press on. And we might even be able to sign one or two more players before the end of the transfer window. But I'm not particularly looking for anything. I think we've got a good balance at the moment. If we can sign anyone that will improve the side, then we will. But other than that, I'm not looking at doing any business. Very, very much some recognisable names in that Bolton squad as well. I saw Jussi Askalainen as the goalkeeper there. And we have a highlight straight from kick-off with Craig Russell and Paul Robinson exchanging passes down the left-hand side. As Craig Russell tried to get forward, he's been brought down by Jensen, and from what I could see there, a penalty has been given inside the first minute here. Big chance here. It's Danny Murphy on his debut, and Danny Murphy smashes home the penalty. Like I say, £30,000 to sign Danny Murphy from Liverpool. I couldn't believe it when I found him, and he's justified it already. 1 minute in here at the Reebok, and Danny Murphy has converted a penalty. Here we have another highlight with Rory Delap exchanging passes with Michael Brown. Sean Wright-Phillips is trying to get onto it and couldn't quite reach it. I'm still not too sure about having Sean Goulter leading the line. I want him to lead the line, but I'm not entirely sure whether he's going to be good enough at this level as of yet. As Bolton with a brilliant effort there, just hitting the crossbar, and we just about hold on to our advantage. But it's obviously we're going to concede more chances in this league with the way that we play, and we've got to make sure that the defensive errors that we had last season aren't repeated this season. Like I said, we've strengthened across the back, so hopefully with that we can really push on this season. As you can see there, Norwich are ahead against West Brom with a very notable name there in Craig Bellamy. He's only 20 at this point in his career. We've got a free kick here with Sean Wright-Phillips on the edge of the area. He whips it in and it's just over the crossbar. Really good opportunity there. But it remains 1-0. I'm quite happy with the fact that we're dominating. I say dominating possession. We're holding more of the possession, which is quite useful, and we're looking good going forward by the looks of things. Our XG is in our favour as well. We're looking quite strong so far, and as you can see by the player ratings in the centre, we're not too bad. Sean Goulter's not seeing a lot of the ball up front. It might be a position that we have to strengthen in a permanent capacity. We've got the depth, with the fact that we've got John Macken and Peter Crouch as well as Goulter, but depending on how many goals he can get this season, we may have to look at replacing him, which I don't want to do. I really do. I'm such a big fan of Sean Goulter, but I just don't know if he'll be able to cut it at this level. As Scott Parker is on the left-hand side with Robinson, it came to nothing. It's a 1-0 half-time lead. I'm really positive about that. Yes, it's from a penalty, but a lead is a lead, and given the fact that there's not much expected of us, we're hoping to make the playoffs. That is my aim personally. If we can do better than that, then great. The board and the fans fancy us to finish mid-table, but I want to aim high. I want to aim for the playoffs. We have got a slight knock to Craig Russell. I'm going to bring Ilano on that left-hand side, I think. I've not actually got anyone who can play on that left-hand side, which is a bit of an oversight. But I'm going to play Ilano there. He is out of position, which is unfortunate, but hopefully he can at least get on the ball and try and move things forward for us a little bit. Sean Goldter, unfortunately, isn't getting a lot of the game at all, and his rating is showing that. So I think what I'm going to do, Ilano can actually play up front, so I'm going to move him up front, and I think I'm going to bring Jason Kumas on wide left, potentially. Can Danny Murphy play out there? Danny Murphy's a little bit better out there. Yeah, I think Danny Murphy can be the inside forward. We'll bring Jason Kumas on in central midfield. We'll move Ilano up front and just see how we get on. A bit of a frustrating game, really, looking at the match stats. We've had 12 attempts, but only 3 on target. It's a little bit of a concern. We could get punished a lot more at this level than we did in the second division, but hopefully we will be able to hold on. There's not been many highlights in this match, and we're still holding the majority of the ball. In terms of fouls, there's been quite a lot going on, but we are still looking quite solid. Rory Delap got a yellow card in the first half. I have left him on. He's seemed to be reasonably solid since then. Ilano couldn't beat Holden to it, but the ball over the top only found Morrison, and Nicky Weaver latches onto it. He's taking his time here, Nicky Weaver. He is under a bit of pressure. There's 2 players right in front of him there for Bolton. He's had to deliver long, and it's not worked. He's gone straight to Pearce, who looks over the top, and Johansson's managed to get onto it. Rory Delap did manage to get onto the pass, though, and Michael Brown gets it away to Jason Kumas. And Sean Wright-Phillips is now free on this right-hand side. He has support in the centre, if he can find it. Instead, he plays it back to Rory Delap. That's a great pass from Delap into Scott Parker in the centre, and it's come here for Danny Murphy. And at the far post, it was Danny Murphy. He slotted it home. 2 goals on his debut. Granted, he's playing out of position now, but he's still managed to get that second goal. And it looks like we're going to be going back to Main Road with 3 points here. Scott Parker into Ilano. He has support ahead of him and finds it in Sean Wright-Phillips, who lobs the keeper, and it's hit the crossbar. What a fantastic goal that would have been. Almost 3-0. But a 2-0 win in our first game at this level. Really, really happy, and very, very solid start to the campaign to beat our rivals by 2-0. Danny Murphy, brilliant debut from him, and I'm very, very pleased with how the new players that played in that game did do. We looked very solid in central midfield, especially when Danny Murphy was back there with Scott Parker. We looked really, really strong, and Paul Robinson and Darren Pearce looked really good in defence as well. No complaints about that. A clean sheet in our first league game of the season, and for a 2-0 win, I'm quite happy with that, and we're right where we want to be. I know it's only been 1 game, but if we can maintain a decent goal difference and we win 3 out of every 5, 3 or 4 games out of every 5, we should be there or thereabouts, and hopefully we can push on. So looking at the schedule for up and coming fixtures, I think what I'm going to do is I will come back at the start of September for Huddersfield at home and Norwich away. We can finish off the transfer window, and I will update you with any transfers at that point. Just going back briefly to pre-season, the backroom staff did arrange quite a few different friendlies. We won nearly every single game. I arranged a couple of games against foreign clubs towards the end. We beat Austria Vienna as well. We had a really good, strong pre-season. We lost, unfortunately, to Anderlecht, but it was a good test, that, because Anderlecht have got a good side at this time. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will be back, like I say, for those 2 games at the start of September, and this is Big Will signing away.